Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation window, her breath fogging the glass as she watched ships dock at Kepler 9 station. The 8-year-old had seen pictures of alien vessels before, but nothing compared to seeing them in real life. Purple hulls with strange markings, ships that looked like crystals and some that seemed to shift colors as they moved. Her mother always said the galaxy was beautiful, and now Sarah understood why. "Stay close, sweetie," Ambassador Liu Chen said, placing a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. "We have the tour in 10 minutes. Sarah nodded but couldn't tear her eyes away from the view. This was her first trip off Earth, her first time seeing the trading station that connected dozens of alien species. Her mother had finally agreed to bring her along during the school break, promising it would be educational. Sarah had promised to behave, to not touch anything important, and to always stay where her mother could see her. The station buzzed with activity. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the corridors. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others floated, and a few skittered on multiple limbs. Sarah tried not to stare, but everything was so new and strange. Her mother had taught her that staring was rude, even when looking at beings with 4 eyes or skin that glowed in the dark. The diplomatic field trip included 20 other humans, mostly children of embassy staff and a few journalists. They gathered in the main concourse waiting for their guide. Sarah stood next to her mother, clutching a small notebook where she planned to draw everything she saw. That was when the alarm started. The sound was sharp and piercing, cutting through the normal hum of station activity. Red lights flashed along the walls. Sarah felt her mother's hand tighten on her shoulder, pulling her close. Around them, aliens scattered in different directions, some running, others moving with frightening speed toward the docking bays. "Everyone stay calm," one of the security officers said, but his voice shook. This is probably just a drill. It was not a drill. The HFY came through the main entrance like a dark wave. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with gray skin covered in bony plates. Their eyes glowed yellow in the flashing red light. Sarah had learned about the HFY in school. They controlled a large empire on the outer rim, and they had never lost a war. Her teacher said they were proud warriors who valued strength above all else. Right now they looked terrifying. "Nobody move," the lead HFY commanded. His voice was deep and echoed through the concourse. He carried a weapon that hummed with energy, and the other soldiers spread out quickly, surrounding the human group and several other species who hadn't escaped in time. "You are now under the protection of the HFY Empire." Protection. Sarah knew that was a lie. Her mother had explained how some people used nice words to hide bad actions. This wasn't protection. This was capture. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, placing herself between the soldiers and the children. "I am Ambassador Liu Chen of Earth. These are civilians, including children. Under galactic law, you cannot—" "Galactic law is what we say it is," the leader interrupted. His name badge read Commander Thexazil. "Your Earth has been expanding into territories we claim. Your government refuses to negotiate properly. Now they will listen." Sarah felt fear creep up her spine, but she tried to remember what her father had taught her before he died. He had been a soldier, and he always said that being brave didn't mean not being scared. It meant doing the right thing even when you were terrified. The HFY soldiers herded everyone into a cargo area. Sarah counted 37 hostages total, including 15 humans. The others were aliens from various species, some crying, some silent with shock. The soldiers sealed the doors and posted guards outside. Ambassador Chen immediately went to her communication device, but Thexazil crushed it under his boot. "No communications. Your government will be contacted through proper channels." "They're making a mistake," one of the journalists whispered to another. "Earth doesn't negotiate with hostage takers." "They'll have to," the other replied. "What choice do they have?" Sarah sat against the wall, trying not to cry. She wanted to be brave like her dad, but she was just a kid and she was scared. Her mother sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It's going to be okay," Liu Chen whispered. "Help is coming." "How do you know?" "Because I know our people. They won't leave us here." Hours passed. The guards brought water but no food. Some of the younger children cried. Sarah tried to help calm them down, telling them stories she remembered from school. It helped keep her own fear at bay. Commander Thexazil returned after what felt like forever. "We have contacted your Earth government. We have made our demands simple. They will cede 3 colony systems to the HFY Empire, and you will all be released unharmed." "Very reasonable, yes?" Ambassador Chen stood, her voice steady. You've made a terrible mistake. Earth has protocols for situations like this. Protocols? Thexazil laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Every species has protocols. Every species negotiates. This is how galactic politics works. You are new to this galaxy. You will learn. No, Luchin said quietly. You will learn. You've taken a human child. You've taken human civilians. You don't understand what you've done. Thexil leaned down, his yellow eyes gleaming. I have taken leverage. Your government will pay our price and this will be forgotten. Simple. Luchin managed to activate her emergency beacon before Thexazil could stop her. It was a small device hidden in her jacket that sent one burst transmission before the ZX Thari commander destroyed it. But one burst was all that was needed. 3 words transmitted across the vast distance to Earth. They have Sarah. The commander backhanded Ambassador Chen, sending her to the floor. Sarah cried out and rushed to her mother's side. Luchin's lip was bleeding, but she was smiling. What is so amusing? Thexazil demanded. You have no idea what you've just started, Luchin said softly, holding her daughter close. We tried to warn you. We really did. Back on Earth, in the Planetary Defense Council chambers, the transmission was received. Admiral James Kowalski read the message 3 times, his face growing harder with each reading. He looked at the council members around the table, and they looked back at him with the same expression. Initiate Protocol Shepard, Kowalski said. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking with barely controlled rage. Full mobilization. Every ship. Every fleet. Every colony, sir, that's 750,000 vessels. The cost alone. I don't care about the cost, Kowalski interrupted. They took one of ours. They took a child. Send the message to every human settlement, every colony, every outpost. We're bringing her home. The order went out across human space. In orbital dockyards, crews rushed to their ships. In colony systems, miners and farmers prepared their vessels for war. Research stations activated weapons they had hoped never to use. Earth's military machine, spread across hundreds of systems, began to move with one purpose. The Zex Thari had thought they were taking one child. They were about to discover they had challenged an entire species. Commander Thexazil stood in the strategy room of the ZX Thari flagship, studying the holographic display with satisfaction. The human hostages were secure, the demands had been sent, and now they simply had to wait for Earth to surrender the 3 colony systems. It was a small price to pay for the safe return of their people. In galactic politics, this was standard procedure. The ZX Thari had done this dozens of times with other species, and it always worked. Commander, we're detecting movement in human space, his tactical officer reported. Thexazil barely looked up. Expected. They're probably gathering a negotiation team. Let me know when they request a communication channel. Sir, it's more than that. Multiple fleet movements. They're mobilizing ships across several systems. Now Thexazil paid attention. He walked to the sensor display and frowned. Military posturing. Trying to make themselves look strong during negotiations. Typical new species behavior. He waved a clawed hand dismissively. Send them a warning. Tell them aggressive movements will result in harm to the hostages. The warning was transmitted. There was no response from Earth. Hours passed, and the sensor readings became more concerning. What had started as movement in a few systems was now detected in dozens. Cargo ships were being retrofitted with weapons. Mining vessels were installing military-grade shields. Even science ships were heading toward the rally points. This doesn't make sense, the tactical officer said, his voice uncertain. The resource expenditure alone is massive. For negotiation posturing, this is excessive. Thexazil felt the first whisper of doubt but pushed it aside. Humans are emotional. They're new to galactic politics. They'll settle down once they realize the reality of the situation. Across human space, a different reality was unfolding. On Mars, Admiral Kowalski stood in the command center. Coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history, screens surrounded him, showing ship counts from every colony, every settlement, every human presence in the galaxy. The numbers kept climbing. Colony Proxima reports. 8,000 ships ready for deployment, an officer announced. New Shanghai system has 12,000 vessels armed and awaiting orders. The mining consortium at Kepler 442 has converted their entire fleet. That's another 15,000 ships. Kowalski watched the numbers rise. This wasn't just the military responding. This was every human who had access to a ship and could mount a weapon to it. Farmers, miners, traders, scientists, every single one of them was answering the call. His second-in-command, Commander Sarah Martinez, approached him. "Sir, the Galactic Council is requesting an urgent communication. They're concerned about our fleet movements." "Tell them we're bringing our people home," Kowalski said simply. "They say we're destabilizing the sector, that this level of mobilization is unprecedented for a hostage situation." Kowalski turned to face her. "One of ours needs us. That's all that matters. One child called for help and we will answer." "Every single one of us," Martinez nodded. She understood. Every human understood. It was something wired into their species, something that made them different from other races in the galaxy. You didn't abandon your own. You didn't calculate the cost. You didn't negotiate when someone took one of yours. Back on the HFY Story flagship, the sensor officer's voice was no longer calm. "Commander, we have new data from intelligence. The human fleet count has exceeded 500,000 vessels and is still climbing." Thexil stared at the display. 500,000 ships for one hostage negotiation. It made no sense. The resource cost alone was staggering. The logistics of coordinating that many vessels was nearly impossible. Yet the humans were doing it. "This is madness," his second officer said. "They're mobilizing their entire civilization for hostages. They'll bankrupt themselves. Contact Emperor Vextar immediately." The Emperor appeared on the communication screen moments later. He had been reading the same reports, and his expression was grave. "What have you done, Thexazil?" "My lord, I followed standard hostage protocols. How could I know they would respond this way? No rational species would." "Perhaps they are not rational," Vextar interrupted. "I'm looking at their history files now. Do you know what the humans did when one of their soldiers was captured by the Kandari pirates?" Thexazil shook his head. "They hunted the pirates to extinction. 3 million pirates dead. They burned 17 pirate bases. They didn't stop until they recovered their soldier. One soldier, Thexazil, and the Kandari learned too late what it meant to take a human." The commander felt cold dread settling in his chest. Surely that was an isolated incident. Ancient history, it was 20 years ago, and there are dozens of similar incidents in their records. The human saying is we leave no one behind. It's not a suggestion. It's a law they live by no matter the cost. On Kepler 9 station, Sarah sat with the other hostages in the cargo bay. She had started teaching the younger children songs to keep their spirits up. Her mother sat nearby, watching the guards with careful eyes. One of the guards, a young ZX-Thari named Kexrol, had been listening to Sarah's songs. He had children of his own back home, and something about this small human singing in the face of fear touched something in him. These were supposed to be leverage, nothing more. But looking at the child, he saw his own younglings. "The fleet is still growing," another guard whispered to Kexrol. "Have you heard? Over 600,000 human ships now, all heading this way." Kexrol's eyes widened. "For them?" He gestured at the hostages. For her specifically. "The child. They're coming for the child." Sarah looked up at the guards and smiled. "I told everyone they'd come. My mom said they would, and she's always right." Kexrol knelt down to Sarah's level. "Little one, do you understand what's happening? Your people are bringing an armada, a war fleet. All of this for you?" "Not just for me," Sarah said simply. "For all of us. Because we're theirs and they're ours. That's how family works. But the cost, the risk. It's not logical." Sarah tilted her head, confused. "It doesn't have to be logical. It's love. You love your family, don't you?" Kexrol stood up slowly, looking at his fellow guards. They could all hear it now. The distant rumble of hundreds of thousands of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. The humans had arrived. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 24 species watched the holographic display showing the human fleet assembling at the border of ZX-Story space. "This is insanity," the Valorian representative said. 750,000 ships. For one child. One single child. They've mobilized their entire military capability," another added. "Colony defense fleets, merchant marines, research vessels with experimental weapons. Everything they have." The Council's senior member, an ancient being called the Eldest, had seen many species rise and fall. He studied the display with old, wise eyes. "No, you all misunderstand. This is not insanity. This is humanity. They fight not with logic but with love. They defend not with calculation but with loyalty. We have seen species with stronger weapons, faster ships, larger armies, but we have never seen a species that refuses to abandon even one of their own, no matter the cost. Should we intervene? Someone asked. Would you want to be the one standing between humanity and their child? The eldest replied. I think not. The Zixthari chose this path. Now they will learn what it means to challenge human resolve. Admiral Kowalski stood on the bridge of the command ship, looking at the assembled armada surrounding him. 750,000 vessels, every type of ship humanity could field, all gathered for one purpose. His communication officer approached. Sir, we're ready. All fleets report prepared for engagement. Kowalski nodded slowly. He thought of his own children, safe at home. He thought of Sarah Chen, 8 years old and afraid, waiting for rescue. He thought of the principle that made humanity what it was. Open a channel to the Zixthari flagship. It's time to explain the situation to them. The communication channel opened with a crackle of static. Commander Thexazil appeared on the main screen of the human flagship, his yellow eyes wide as he took in the bridge behind Admiral Kowalski. The Admiral stood with his hands behind his back, his face carved from stone. I am Admiral James Kowalski of the Earth Defense Fleet. I am speaking on behalf of all of humanity. You have taken our people. You have taken a child. You have exactly 24 hours to return every hostage unharmed to neutral territory. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Thexazil tried to maintain his composure. Admiral, surely we can discuss this reasonably. We have made simple demands. 3 colony systems, small territories. You return them to us and you misunderstand the situation. Kowalski interrupted, his voice cold. We are not here to bargain. We are not here to trade territory for lives. We are here to bring our people home. You have 24 hours, and if we refuse, you would start a war over one child? The cost in lives alone would be... We have done the math, Kowalski said. We know exactly what this will cost. We're prepared to pay it. The question is whether you are prepared to pay the price of refusing. The screen switched to display the human armada. 750,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, stretching across space like a metal ocean. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and everything in between. Mining ships retrofitted with railguns. Colony transports carrying fighter squadrons. Science vessels equipped with weapons that had only existed in laboratories until 3 days ago. Thexazil felt his confidence crumbling. This is madness. No species commits this level of resources for so few individuals. Then you don't understand humanity. 24 hours, Commander. We'll be waiting. The channel closed. Emperor Vextar watched the transmission from his throne world 3 systems away from the standoff. His advisors clustered around him, arguing among themselves about the proper response. We cannot show weakness, one advisor insisted. If we surrender to this pressure, every species in the galaxy will think they can threaten us. If we don't surrender, the humans will attack, another countered. Look at the force they've assembled. Our fleet in that sector is less than 50,000 ships. They outnumber us 15 to 1. We should call their bluff, the first advisor said. They won't actually attack. The galactic community would condemn them. The cost would destroy their economy. Their posturing. Emperor Vexatar said nothing. He was reading human history files deep into the night. The more he read, the more a terrible understanding settled over him. The humans had a saying. Peace was their preference, but they would walk through hell for one of their own. He was beginning to believe they meant it literally. On the Zixthari flagship in the cargo bay holding the hostages, Sarah sat with her back against the wall. Her mother held her close, humming softly. The other hostages had grown quiet, sensing the tension in their guards. Kexroll, the young guard, brought them water. His hand shook slightly as he handed the container to Ambassador Chen. The fleet, he said quietly. It's really here. All of it, Liu Chen looked at him steadily. I tried to warn your commander. We tried to tell him. Humanity doesn't negotiate for our people. We come for them. But why? The cost is too high. It makes no strategic sense. Strategy isn't everything, Liu Chen replied. Some things matter more than logic. My daughter matters more than colony systems. More than money. More than anything. Sarah looked up at the guard. Do you have kids? Kexroll nodded slowly. 3. Young ones. Would you leave them behind if someone took them? The question hung in the air. Kexroll had no answer, because he knew deep in his heart that he would do anything to get his children back. He just had never imagined a species that would extend that same principle to every single one of their own. The galactic news networks were broadcasting the standoff across dozens of systems. Species that had never heard of humans before were now watching in fascination and horror as the tiny upstart civilization faced down the HFY Empire. "They're going to do it," one analyst said on the broadcast. "The humans are actually going to attack if their demands aren't met. This will reshape galactic politics," another added. "If they succeed, if they force the HFY to back down, every species will have to recalculate their approach to humanity. And if they fail, then we'll witness the largest military disaster in modern history." Neighboring species began evacuating border systems. They had seen the human fleet, had read the same history files that Emperor Vextar was reading. They recognized the look in human eyes, had heard the tone in Admiral Kowalski's voice. This wasn't a bluff. This wasn't posturing. This was a promise, and humanity had a reputation for keeping their promises. On the command ship, Admiral Kowalski reviewed the attack plans with his senior staff. Commander Martinez pointed to weak points in the HFY defensive line, outlined quick strike options, suggested diplomatic back channels. "Sir, the Galactic Council is asking us to stand down. They're offering to mediate. Tell them we appreciate the offer, but this isn't their concern. This is between us and the HFY. The Council is threatening sanctions if we attack." Kowalski looked at her. "Commander, do you have children?" Martinez nodded. "2 boys, 7 and 9. If someone took them, held them hostage, how much would you care about sanctions?" Martinez smiled grimly. "Not at all, sir." "Exactly. Sarah Chen is 8 years old. She likes drawing. She wants to be a scientist when she grows up. She's afraid of the dark but pretends to be brave. Her favorite food is chocolate ice cream. She's not a statistic. She's not a negotiating point. She's one of ours, and we're bringing her home." The clock ticked down. 20 hours remaining. 15, 12. Emperor Vextar called an emergency meeting of his military council. "Give me options," he demanded. "We could evacuate the hostages to a more secure location, further from the human fleet," one general suggested. "That would take time we don't have, and the humans would see it as escalation," another replied. "We could execute the hostages, remove the humans' reason for attacking." The room fell silent. Emperor Vextar stared at the general who had suggested it. "And then what? Do you think the humans would simply leave? Or would we face 750,000 ships with nothing to lose and vengeance in their hearts?" The general had no answer. "We could surrender the hostages," the wisest of the advisors said quietly. "Admit we made an error. Return them unharmed with apologies. We would look weak. We would look pragmatic. We would live. And we would learn an important lesson about which species to challenge and which to respect." 6 hours remaining. Thexazil stood in the cargo bay, looking at the hostages. Sarah was teaching the younger children a clapping game, trying to keep their minds off the situation. She laughed when one of them got the rhythm right and the sound was pure and innocent. This child had brought an armada. This one small being had mobilized an entire civilization. Thexazil had been a warrior his entire life, had studied strategy and tactics, had won battles through superior planning and execution. But he had never understood that some species operated on principles that had nothing to do with logic. Kexerol approached him. "Commander, permission to speak freely. Granted, we should surrender them. Not because we're afraid, but because we made a mistake. We thought they were like other species. They're not. They love harder, fight fiercer, and protect more fiercely than we imagined possible." Thexazil looked at his young officer. "You've become sympathetic to the hostages. I've become realistic about our situation. Look at that child. She's not afraid anymore. Do you know why? Because she believes with absolute certainty that her people will come for her. And she's right. They're already here." 3 hours remaining. Admiral Kowalski opened a final channel to the HFY flagship. "Commander Thexazil, you have 3 hours. I want to be clear about what happens when this clock reaches 0. We will not negotiate. We will not hesitate. We will come through you like a storm, and when we're done, the HFY Empire will understand the cost of taking even one human." Thexazil looked at the Admiral. He saw no anger in the human's eyes, only determination, only certainty. And he understood finally that this would happen exactly as promised. "How do we resolve this?" Thexazil asked quietly. "You return our people, all of them, unharmed. Then you leave us alone. And that's all?" No punishment? No retribution? That depends on whether you hurt them between now and when we get them back. 2 hours remaining. The galaxy held its breath and watched. 2 hours remained on the clock when Admiral Kowalski made a decision. The Zexthari still hadn't responded to the ultimatum. Emperor Vextar was silent. The galaxy watched and waited, but humanity was done waiting. Commander Martinez, prepare Battle Group 7 for demonstration. Martinez looked up sharply. Sir, if we fire, that breaks the ceasefire. It could escalate. It's not going to escalate. It's going to clarify. The Zexthari think we're bluffing. They need to understand we're not. Select an uninhabited target in their territory. Military installation only. No civilian presence, Gamma 7, sir. It's a weapons testing facility on an empty moon. No personnel stationed there currently, according to our intelligence or to confirm that intelligence. Triple check it. I want 0 casualties. This is about making a point, not starting a massacre. 30 minutes later, Battle Group 7 broke formation. 1,000 ships moving in perfect coordination advanced towards Zexthari space. The Zexthari sensors detected the movement immediately. Commander, a human battle group is advancing. The tactical officer reported to Thexazil. 1,000 vessels. They're heading toward Gamma 7. Gamma 7? Our weapons facility. Scramble the defense fleet. They're attacking. Sir, Gamma 7 is empty. We evacuated it for maintenance 2 weeks ago. Thexazil paused. The humans knew it was empty. They had done their research. This wasn't an attack. This was a message. Emperor Vextar watched from his throne world as the human battle group approached the moon. His military advisors scrambled to understand what was happening. Should we engage them, my lord? No, watch, they're teaching us something. The human ships arrived at Gamma 7 and formed a sphere around the moon. Then, with the precision of a surgeon's knife, they opened fire. The attack lasted exactly 90 seconds. Relativistic projectiles moving at a fraction of light speed struck the weapons facility first, punching through shields that were designed to withstand conventional warfare. Then came the energy weapons. Coordinated beams from 100 ships focusing on strategic points. Quantum disruptors, technology most species didn't even know existed, tore apart the molecular bonds of the installation structure. Finally, plasma torpedoes superheated what remained into glowing slag. When the 90 seconds ended, Gamma 7 no longer existed. The moon itself was cracked, glowing with residual heat. The weapons facility was simply gone, erased from existence with such thoroughness that future archaeologists would struggle to prove it had ever been there. The human battle group reformed and returned to the main fleet. They hadn't lost a single ship. They hadn't even been scratched. Admiral Kowalski opened a channel to every Zexthari military frequency. The message was broadcast simultaneously to Emperor Vextar, Commander Thexazil, and every ship in the Zexthari fleet. That was one battle group. 1,000 ships. 90 seconds. We have 750 battle groups. Do the math. This is your last warning. Return our people in the next 90 minutes. Or we demonstrate what 750,000 ships can do to targets that aren't empty. The channel closed. On the throne world, Emperor Vextar's advisors erupted in chaos. They destroyed Gamma 7 in 90 seconds. Those weapons, the quantum disruptors, we've never seen technology like that. They've been hiding their true capabilities. We thought they were a young species with limited firepower. If they can do that to a military installation, imagine what they could do to populated systems. Emperor Vextar raised a hand for silence. How many of our citizens live in the sector where the human fleet is positioned? Approximately 4 billion, my lord. And they could reach our throne world in how long? At their current speed, 3 days. Perhaps 2 if they push their engines. The Emperor closed his eyes. 4 billion lives. Entire planets of his people, living in systems that the humans could reach before reinforcements could arrive. He had thought the humans were bluffing, that they would negotiate. He had been catastrophically wrong. Send a message to Commander Thexazil. Release the hostages now, immediately, full apologies. Whatever they want. My lord, our honor. Our honor won't matter if we're all dead, Vextar said quietly. I have read their history. They once fought a war that killed 60 million of their own people because one group of humans attacked another group of humans. 60 million of their own kind over a matter of principle. What do you think they'll do to us over one of their children? On the Zexthari flagship, Thexazil received the Emperor's orders and felt relief flood through him. He had been preparing to order the execution of the hostages. thinking it would remove the humans' reason for attack. Now he understood that would have been the worst possible decision. The humans wouldn't have stopped. They would have burned the Zek-Thari Empire to ashes. But there was a problem. "Commander, we have a situation," Kexrol reported. "Commander Vexazil has barricaded himself in the hostage bay with a squad of loyalists. He's refusing to surrender them. He says releasing them would be weakness and he won't be part of it." Vexazil felt his blood run cold. Vexazil was his cousin, a hardline warrior who believed the old ways, who would rather die than show weakness, and now he had trapped himself in a room with the very hostages that could prevent a war. "How many soldiers does he have?" 12, all armed. They've sealed the blast doors." Inside the cargo bay, Sarah heard the commotion outside. The guards who had been bringing them food and water had left suddenly, replaced by different soldiers with harder faces. One of them, a scarred veteran with cold eyes, stood before the hostages.
"I am Vexazil."
"You will not be released. My people do not surrender. We do not show weakness. If the humans attack, you will die with us, and they will learn the cost of challenging the ZX-Thari." Ambassador Liu Chen stood up, placing herself between Vexazil and the children. "You're making a mistake. Your emperor has ordered you to release us." "The emperor is weak. I am strong. History will remember that I did not bend. History will remember you got your people killed for nothing," Liu Chen said coldly. Sarah grabbed her mother's hand. She was scared now, really scared. The other hostages were crying. Some of the alien captives were praying in their own languages. They were so close to being saved, and now this angry soldier was going to ruin everything. But then she heard something, a strange humming sound coming from beyond the walls. It was rhythmic, purposeful. Her father had been an engineer before becoming a soldier, and he'd taught her about different sounds machines made. "Mom," she whispered. "They're cutting through the walls." Ambassador Chen's eyes widened. The humans weren't waiting. Somewhere in the chain of command, someone had sent the coordinates of the hostage bay, and humanity's special forces were already coming. Kexrol had done it. While Vexazil was grandstanding, while Thexazil was trying to negotiate with his cousin through the sealed door, Kexrol had sent a coded transmission to the human fleet. 3 numbers, the coordinates of the hostage bay. He had 3 children at home. He understood what the humans were feeling, and he had made his choice. The cutting sounds grew louder. Vexazil heard them too and spun toward the wall, raising his weapon. "Defensive positions!" "They're breaching!" The wall exploded inward, not violently but with surgical precision. A perfect circle cut through reinforced metal, and through the opening came humans in black armor. They moved like shadows, faster than the Zek-Thari could react. The first soldier dropped 3 of Vexazil's guards with stun rounds before they could fire a shot. The second soldier dove toward the hostages, covering them with his body. The third went straight for Vexazil. The fight lasted 8 seconds. The human soldier dodged Vexazil's energy blast, closed the distance and disabled him with 3 precise strikes. The veteran ZX-Thari warrior crumpled to the ground unconscious. The remaining guards dropped their weapons. They had seen enough. These humans were on another level entirely. "Sarah Chen?" the lead soldier asked. His voice filtered through his helmet.
"Here," Sarah said, raising her hand like she was in school.
The soldier knelt beside her and her mother. "I'm Lieutenant Morrison. We're taking you home. Are you hurt?" Sarah shook her head. "We're okay. Is my mom's ship outside?" "Better than that. Admiral Kowalski himself is waiting for you." They extracted all 37 hostages in 12 minutes. The Zek-Thari guards watched in stunned silence as the humans moved through the ship like ghosts, neutralizing resistance without killing anyone, retrieving their people with the efficiency that spoke of years of training and absolute commitment. When Ambassador Chen and Sarah stepped onto the human transport ship, they were met with cheers from the crew. Sarah looked around at all the smiling faces, at the soldiers and pilots who had come for her, and finally let herself cry. Admiral Kowalski was there, waiting. He knelt down to Sarah's level. "Welcome home, Sarah. You were very brave." "I knew you'd come," Sarah said through tears. "I told everyone you would. I told them humans don't leave people behind." "Never," Kowalski said. "Not ever." The transport docked with the command ship. The human fleet, all 750,000 vessels, began their withdrawal from Zek-Thari space. Their people were safe. The mission was complete. But the galaxy had learned something that day. They had learned what happened when you took one human child. They had learned the price of underestimating human resolve. And they had learned that some species measured success not in territory or resources, but in the simple act of bringing their people home. The human fleet remained at the border of Zixthari space for 3 days after the rescue. Not as a threat, but as a statement. Admiral Kowalski wanted to make sure the message was absolutely clear. Humanity had come for one child, and they would come again if necessary for anyone else. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all talking at once, trying to understand what had just happened. The eldest, the council's most senior member, called for silence. "We must discuss the human response to the Zixthari hostage situation." "Response?" one representative said. "That was an invasion force. They brought 750,000 ships for one child. And they succeeded," the eldest pointed out. "No shots fired beyond the demonstration. No civilian casualties. They retrieved their people and withdrew. This is not aggression. This is something else entirely. It's disproportionate," the Valorian representative argued. "The cost alone must have been staggering. No rational species commits those resources for so few individuals." A human representative, Ambassador Marcus Chen, stood up. He was Sarah's uncle, and he had watched the entire situation unfold with pride and terror mixed together. "You call it disproportionate. We call it family. You calculate cost and benefit. We calculate whether our people are home safe. These are different ways of seeing the universe. But surely you must see this as unsustainable," someone argued. "You cannot mobilize your entire civilization every time one person is in danger." Marcus smiled grimly. "Watch us. We've done it before. We'll do it again, because the moment we decide one life isn't worth saving is the moment we stop being human." The eldest nodded slowly. "I propose a new galactic law. Human civilians are to be considered untouchable. Any species that harms, kidnaps, or threatens humans will face immediate intervention from the Galactic Council." "You're giving them special protection?" "That's unprecedented." "No," the eldest said. "I'm saving lives. Because if the humans have to mobilize again, people will die. Possibly millions. I'm trying to prevent that by making it clear that touching a human brings consequences no one wants to face." The law passed with overwhelming support. Not out of love for humanity, but out of fear of what humanity would do if pushed. On Earth, Sarah Chen was home. She sat in her backyard, drawing pictures of the ships she had seen. Her mother sat beside her, still recovering from the ordeal but grateful beyond words. "Mom, do you think they would really have done it? If the Zixthari hadn't let us go, would all those ships have attacked?" Ambassador Liu Chen was quiet for a moment. "Yes, without hesitation. That's what makes us human, Sarah. We protect our own no matter what. Even if it costs a lot. Even then, some things are more important than money or resources. You're one of those things. Every human is." Sarah went back to her drawing. She was sketching Admiral Kowalski now, trying to capture the way he had looked when he knelt down to welcome her home. She wanted to remember that moment forever. On Mars, Admiral Kowalski stood before the Planetary Defense Council. They were reviewing the operation, analyzing costs, discussing the political aftermath. "The operation cost us approximately 4 trillion credits, one counselor reported. Mobilizing that many ships, coordinating logistics, the fuel alone. And how much is Sarah Chen worth?" Kowalski interrupted. "Admiral, that's not the point. That is exactly the point. We're not accountants. We're humans. We don't calculate the value of our people in credits. We measure success by whether they come home." "But surely there must be limits," another counselor said. "We can't mobilize the entire fleet every time someone is in trouble." Kowalski leaned forward. "Then tell me, counselor. Tell me where the line is. How many humans have to be in danger before it's worth mobilizing? 10, 100, 1,000? Because once you draw that line, you've told every human in the galaxy that they might not be worth saving. That if they're on the wrong side of your calculation, they're expendable." The room fell silent. "We sent a message to the galaxy," Kowalski continued. "We told them that humans are not to be trifled with, that we will come for our own, that we leave no one behind. That message will save lives in the future. Species that might have considered taking human hostages will think twice. Pirates who might have raided human settlements will choose easier targets. That's worth 4 trillion credits." The council voted to commend the operation. It was unanimous. In Zixthari space, Emperor Vextar was dealing with the aftermath. Commander Thexazil had been demoted and assigned to border patrol duties. Thexazil, the cousin who had tried to keep the hostages, was in prison awaiting trial. The weapons facility at Gamma 7 was a scar on an empty moon, a reminder of what had happened. But Vextar had learned something valuable. He had learned that humanity operated on different principles than other species. They were not more powerful, not necessarily smarter, but they were more committed to each other than any species he had ever encountered. He issued a new imperial decree. Zexthari forces were forbidden from engaging human civilians under any circumstances. It was, his advisor said, a sign of weakness. Vexter called it wisdom. Kexrol, the young guard who had transmitted the hostage coordinates to the humans, requested asylum. He didn't want to live in an empire that would take children hostage for political gain. His request was granted immediately, and he moved to Earth with his own 3 children. He became a teacher, educating young humans about alien cultures and teaching them that not all Zexthari were like those who had taken Sarah. Sarah visited his class once, 3 years after the incident. She was 11 now, confident and bright. The students asked her what it had been like, being at the center of the greatest military mobilization in history. "I wasn't at the center," Sarah said. "I was just the reason. The center was all of humanity, coming together to bring us home. That's what made it special. Not the ships or the weapons, but the fact that every single human, from Earth to the furthest colony, agreed that we mattered enough to save." "Were you scared?" a student asked. "Yes, but I also really knew that help was coming. Because that's what we do. We take care of each other." A documentary filmmaker asked Admiral Kowalski 5 years after the incident if he would do it again, if he would mobilize 750,000 ships for one person. "Yes," Kowalski said without hesitation. "And the next time, if there is a next time, I hope we don't need to mobilize at all. I hope the galaxy remembers what happened when they took Sarah Chen. I hope they remember that humans are not a species that abandons their own. We came for one child, and we'd come for one farmer, one scientist, one janitor. We'd come for anyone. Some species call you zealots. Some species don't understand love," Kowalski replied. "They see our commitment to each other as irrational. But what's truly irrational is a civilization that calculates whether its members are worth saving. We decided a long time ago that every human life has infinite value. That's not zealotry. That's civilization." The 750,000 fleet incident, as it came to be known, changed galactic politics forever. Species that had once seen humanity as young and naive now treated them with wary respect. Trade agreements became more favorable. Territorial disputes were settled peacefully. No one wanted to be the next species to learn what humanity did when pushed. Pirates avoided human ships entirely. The Kandari pirate clans, who had once preyed on any species they could catch, added humans to their forbidden list. Word spread through the criminal underworld. Humans were not worth the trouble. One hostage could bring an armada. Sarah Chen grew up in the shadow of the incident. She couldn't go anywhere without people recognizing her as the girl who brought the fleet. But she handled it with grace, always redirecting attention to the people who had saved her, not to herself. At 18, she applied to the Naval Academy. Her entrance essay was simple. "I was 8 years old when 750,000 ships came for me. I want to spend my life being worthy of that sacrifice. I want to be one of the people who comes when someone needs help." She was accepted immediately. 30 years after the incident, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her own command ship. She had risen through the ranks quickly, her name carrying weight but her skills earning respect. She commanded a battle group of 1,000 ships, and she ran them with the same principle that had saved her life. We leave no one behind. When a distress call came from a mining colony under pirate attack, Admiral Chen's response was immediate. Her fleet jumped to hyperspace within minutes, arriving before the pirates could do serious damage. The pirates fled at the sight of her battle group. One of the miners, an older man who remembered the 750,000 fleet incident, asked her why she responded so fast. "Because someone once responded fast for me," Sarah said simply. "Because that's what we do. We take care of our own." On Earth, in a military museum, there was an exhibit dedicated to the incident. The centerpiece was a holographic display showing all 750,000 ships assembled at the Zexthari border. Visitors could walk through the display, seeing the massive scale of the mobilization, but the most popular part of the exhibit was simpler. It was a video recording of 8-year-old Sarah Chen sitting in the cargo bay of the Zexthari flagship, teaching other hostages a clapping game. Her voice was clear and strong. Don't worry. They're coming for us. They always come. And beneath the video, a simple plaque. We leave no one behind. This is not a slogan. This is a promise. This is what it means to be human. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had shown them what they were capable of, not through conquest or aggression, but through the simple act of refusing to abandon one of their own. It was a lesson written in the stars, remembered across 1,000 worlds, taught to every alien child who asked why humans were different. They were different because they cared, because they would cross the galaxy for one person, because in the vast cold of space humanity had decided that loneliness and abandonment were the true enemies, and they would fight those enemies with everything they had. Sarah Chen, the girl who brought the fleet, had grown into Admiral Chen, the woman who embodied the fleet's principles, and somewhere in the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, species told the story of the day humans mobilized 750,000 ships for one child. It was a story about disproportionate response, about irrational commitment, about love that defied calculation. It was a story about humanity,